Hi, thank you so much, Rabbi Michelle. It's really such an honor to be here. It's thrilling to have something to celebrate, as someone said in the chat. Um, and I live in Manhattan, context. So I deliberated how and when to start learning Daf Yomi, to committing to that. But I finally joined the cycle back in August 2023 when we were learning Masechet Kiddushin. And so I've been so grateful to be a part of this virtual community over the last year. I've been humbled and impressed every day by the consistency, loyalty, and commitment that the entire brilliant group of Hadran women and Rabbanit Michelle have shown day in and out. And you have helped me weather many storms on joyous days and on horrendous days, personal and communal. I feel like I can always go back to the DAF and to this community. You've allowed me, and I imagine so many women and men, a safe place of stability and comfort amidst the roller coaster of our lives. So thank you. As a new DAFer, I very humbly want to share a brief reflection from my professional standpoint, as Ronnie Michelle said. And it's actually, I'm hoping it layers and shows a different facet to what Dr. Lana Sanhain just said. Brilliant. And what also Ronnie Michelle said in the Siyum. We know that Bava Metzia and rabbinic law in general is an effort to translate the values expressed in the Torah into on-the-ground laws guiding our day-to-day interactions. So as we just heard today, and then also Dr. Hoffman-Lipson so clearly and eloquently stated in her introduction to Bava Metzia, that we see this time and again. How do we translate, let's say, the value of not shirking your responsibility into legal practice? So I'm a social worker at a hospital in New York City, where I work with victims of elder abuse. On a day-to-day level, my job is to facilitate a safe experience while they're at the hospital for these victims, as well as work with them and their loved ones to facilitate a post-hospital discharge course that reduces the risk of harm. In a broader sense, I like to see myself as an elder justice professional, where I put in my work to create a society where ideally elder abuse never occurs. In my role as a social worker, I dabble in the realm of law, though I'm far from a lawyer. But I'm fascinated by the ways laws can influence and shape society. What are the levers that our authorities and societal structures can pull to make society more equitable, accessible, and united? What are the ways we can predict human tendencies and push them to be better people, just as Dr. Steinhage just said? So as I go through the DAF, I see the various ways and various beautiful ways that the sages try to use law to try to shape a peaceful, connected society, essentially maintain community. And we saw a powerful example back in Bava Kama of an image of society that the rabbis tried to imagine, where the Braita described a takana that makes it very accessible for thieves to repent. You probably remember this. The takana was that if a thief decides on her own volition to go back to the person she stole from, and she decides to return the stolen item, which is encouraged, the one who was stolen from has to say no thank you to the item. This takana, I think, is pretty radical, where the victim cannot accept the item back. But I loved hearing it because this is actually very much in line with the concept of restorative justice. You may have heard of that term, and it's a concept that's been around for a long time. The idea where using law to restore a sense of community rather than penalize and lock up a criminal whenever possible. And it does come off these days as a potentially, radical way of thinking of things, especially if you're the one who's the victim. But it's interesting that the rabbis suggested that kind of concept here, where the takana almost forces a face-to-face encounter between the perpetrator and the victim. And it encourages a human interaction to occur, one where the two sides can learn about each other and potentially restore a sense of identity and trust in each other. And you can imagine what that could look like if we're forced to go back, give back the item and talk to each other and work out what happened here, and that feeling of acceptance where the person says it's okay. I don't need this item back. Another powerful example from Bava Metzia is the conversation between Abai and Rava that begins on the bottom of Daf 93, where Abai asked Rava, what's the halacha in the case where a shepherd comes across a thief and then the shepherd talks tough, trying to show his strength, and the thief ultimately steals from him? In this case, Rava answers the halacha is it's as though the shepherd taunted and motivated the thief, and the shepherd is held responsible. So funny enough, the day prior to learning that daf, I had a work dinner with one of the world's experts on gun violence, Dr. Arthur Kellerman, who is known for his some people think it's controversial research on gun ownership. And note that it's done in America, so I'm not applying this to any other countries. Yes, it's publicly controversial. His research says if you possess a gun in your home, contrary to popular thinking that you can defend yourself better, you're actually more likely to be shot or endangered. He said that he sadly sees countless stories, devastating stories of innocent people killed by the police in America because the policeman saw a gun in hand, even if it was locked and unloaded, and mistakenly reacted by shooting, claiming it was for their own self-defense. So I'm far from trying to make any political statements here. And again, I'm describing his research in America. But I am underscoring the brilliance of Rava, who understands how minds think and creates safeguards in society by discouraging taunting behavior. In almost every daf of the Talmud, we see how scholars grapple with human behavior and make efforts to balance the value of one's own personal benefit with the value of community benefit, and how our scholars set boundaries and ethical floors and ceilings for the greater good. I'm fascinated by the fact that our rabbis have intentionally exposed their conversations for the lay public to understand and to read and to see what sacrifices are necessary to make a functioning and ethical and thriving society. We are invited to sit next to the lawmakers to see how they deliberate their laws that define the way we live. And I feel so privileged that Rabbanit Michelle and everyone at Hadran has enabled me to bear witness to how these sages work these things out. And on a quick note, possibly a call to action about how I came to Daf Yomi. I learned to love Talmud in seminary after high school, but I never saw myself as someone who's actually capable of participating in Daf Yomi. I thought it was for someone more educated, more intellectual Jewish thinkers. But about 4 years ago, a brilliant and kind childhood friend of mine, who I honestly never expected to learn Daf Yomi merely because she wasn't a Jewish educator, told me she was learning and loving it. And then she said the magical words, I totally think you would love Daf Yomi, Elaine. Had she not said that final statement, I think I would have said to myself, good for her, she's so cool, and then walked away. But it became an earworm that someone like me had confidence in me that I could do it. So I hope that this might inspire you to let another woman know that you think you have confidence in her too. Mazal tov to everyone. Thank you so much.